simplistic. And then back to Kubernetes. So that's the round robin, and we'll see that how he goes there. So Six is back. Everyone give Six a big round of applause, and I'll hand it over to him.
You meant Bravo channel,
Yeah.
Bravo company. I get that now. I was confused. It's fine.
I'm always confused.
I was like, what? Okay. Oh boy.
Okay.
All right. So today we're going to talk about our flight lead procedures, and we're going to try and break it down into three sections, kind of the roles of the flight, some of our navigation techniques, and then some of our flying techniques. All right. So to caveat all this, an instructor pilot used to tell me, you got laws, procedures, and techniques. Laws are kind of those aviation or Army regulations. Those are the hard laws that tell you what you can and cannot do. Your procedures are kind of your locally generated, your SOPs. So we have an SOP we work with. You guys have developed techniques or procedures to work with within your groups. And then finally you have techniques. So techniques is the big one. Also, like, your ATM is part of your kind of your procedures as well, or laws, but techniques is just a person's individual ways to get the same tasks accomplished within the standards. So a lot of us have different techniques to do things, and it doesn't mean they're necessarily right or wrong or anything like that. So I'm going to talk to you guys a lot about some of my techniques. Sometimes they're going to work for what we're doing. So most times they are, because I've been practicing them. But we adjust those techniques based on your mission or your tactics, you base on your mission and whatnot. But the techniques it's hard to not over teach you guys our techniques where you get wrapped around them as like laws, to understand that you might have a different way of doing something. It's still legal, it's still right, and it still works. So yeah, just keep in mind when you guys are ever training or teaching that techniques are very fluid and everybody has them and everybody can be right. So also, we'll kind of talk in these three little groups. That way we can answer questions kind of at the end of each section or throughout that section. That way things are kind of fresh in your mind. So the first one is the roles of the formation. And then everything today, we're really talking about air assault formations. I'll mention gunships a little bit, just in the way they're going to vary as a Huey gunship compared to an air assault formation. I'll mention that, but most of the stuff I'm talking about is leading like an 8-ship Huey formation or a 20 or 100 or whatnot. That's the context I'm operating around. You got to remember, in the aviation Army world, we tend to get wrapped around what we're taught. We try to impose that on others. Gunships operate differently. Larger aircraft, they operate differently. Different types of units operate differently. So everything is based on, it's called METTC, but basically your mission, your equipment, and really what you're trying to do is going to dictate the tactics of what you're trying to do. So just don't necessarily take something I'm teaching you and apply it to an MI8 gunship. That's all I'm saying. So the big role, the one we're talking about today, is flight lead. So flight lead is generally your most proficient pilot in command, and he's going to lead the formation. Not command it, but he's leading that formation. Some units, your flight lead is your air mission commander or your chalk leader or whatnot, but that don't see it too often because that's a lot of work. We try to spread out the workload as best we can. Early on in the process, he develops your primary and alternate routes. So he generally builds those routes, so he's very familiar with it to make the navigation easier. He's in charge of your en-route navigation. Some of your en-route communication, obstacle threat avoidance, and then there's some other stuff we do in the real world, transponders and some other stuff that's not really applicable here. So he's really he's leading that flight around. That's what he's doing. The AMC gives him a lot of leeway. The flight lead might come off course or do things, and the AMC is generally paying attention to his route, knowing what he's doing, but he gives him a lot of leeway to lead that flight, speed up, slow down, adjust sometimes. Now, he should be communicating with the AMC for big changes, but that flight lead's generally an experienced pilot. Now, Chalk 2, I like to talk about because he is also a very important role. So we build our formation from front or from back to front. Least experience in the back, most experience in the front. So Chalk 2 is also an experienced PC. His big deal is he sets the formation. So if Chalk 2 has a lazy, like he gets kind of narrow, I don't know if you guys see in your formations where Chalk 2 gets narrow, the whole formation will be narrow. Chalk 2 is spread out, the whole formation spreads out because everybody maintains angles. So whereas Flight Lead needs to fly nice and smooth and make formation easy, Chalk 2 really needs to set that formation and maintain the discipline because everybody builds off Chalk 2. He assists in building the flight routes, and he's the backup navigation en route. We get kind of lazy and we let the first two kind of do all the navigating, but really every aircraft in the flight needs to know where they are in the mission. They need to be paying attention. I'm not saying that always happens on a cross country. Sometimes you get lazy and you just follow the guys in front of you, but generally in a tactical world, everybody wants to be paying attention. That way, we don't talk about when the next turn is, when we're slowing down, when we're doing any of that. All that's briefed, and then I follow along the route. I know, hey, when I hit this ACP, I'm slowing down, descending, turning left. I know all that already, and I have to know that I have to pay attention where I am in the route. But he is the backup in route navigation, and he should always be prepared to take flight lead. If flight lead breaks or something like that, well, Chalk 2, he's the next man up to run that flight. Finally, AMC. We call them serial commanders here, air mission commanders. You got an air mission commander is a overall runs the mission, the air mission. Here you guys talk about serial commanders. So if we have like a serial of 10 aircraft, that serial commander, he's in there. He's making sure that serial goes well. But the air mission commander runs the overall mission. His job is planning and organizing and briefing the mission. He ensures flight integrity, discipline, and mission accomplishment. So you guys have had air mission commanders, and then you've had your serial commanders. He's managing the show. He's doing a lot of communication to higher, or sometimes we spread that task out. He communicates to the ground units, that kind of stuff. But those are your three basic roles for running an air assault flight or a multi-ship. Any questions on any of that kind of stuff? Okay. So I'm not going to get into my whole navigation seminar. DCS, I probably talk to you guys all a lot about before I take off. I pick my route. I set key points that I can kind of remember, rivers to fly along, bridges to cross. That way I'm not flipping in and out of the F10 map. Real world, I have a guy on the map the whole time. He's saying turn left, turn right, you're coming up on this, and he's just talking the map to me. DCS, we obviously don't have that, so we try to limit switching the F10 map. So I'm always trying to build a very simple route. In the real world, your routes are based on threat and then simplicity and ease of navigation. So we're not going to get into all that detail, but we're going to talk about our start points and our release points. So these are very very important points, especially that release point. They need to be easily identifiable terrain features, and they're 3 to 8 kilometers or nautical miles from your LZ or PZ. So, basically, I pick a point that starts my route. So we get the whole formation in the air, we get it going, and when we hit that start point, that's where we accelerate to cruise speed or open up our formation, and everybody's supposed to be together at that point. That's what a start point does. An RP gets us slowed down and established and in the general landing direction of our LZ. It's very important. So we will be in a wider formation in cruise, so that one weapon doesn't take us all out. But when we hit that RP as a Huey flight, we got to be close together because we got to get those Hueys close together because we only have a handful of guys in each aircraft. So we shrink that formation back up. We're getting her slowed down and get it in the landing direction so we can come in and do a nice, smooth, slow landing approach into the LZ. Your RP for landing, you want it to generally be within 30 degrees of your landing direction. So you don't want to have an RP and then do a 90-degree turn, pedal turn, to try and land in your LZ. You want to hit, so if we're going to fly 50 knots RP inbound, we want to be at that speed when we hit the RP. So approaching the RP, I start to decelerate. My flight starts to shrink up. I hit the RP. I'm at 50 knots, 50, 60, whatever you guys set. Could be slower. Could, you know, based on different modes of flight. You might not change speeds at all. Just, we'll get into that a little bit. But you're going to turn, make your final turn. It's going to line you up pretty close to the LZ. And then you come in. You're going to keep decelerating as you get closer, and then come in for a smooth landing. The reason I want to be slowed down prior to the RP, sometimes some people hit the RP and then they slow down, is the RP, you guys are practicing landing to the same point. The whole formation lands into one area. On some missions, you guys hit the RP and then you split up, and each one hits their own mission. We actually have some DCS missions that do this. So if we're not set and our speed isn't set and we hit that point and break up, we're going to run into each other. So it's important to be crossing the RP at the proper speed, and then everybody finds their direction or the formation stays together. But that's why you want your speed set that way. If I don't have an RP, sometimes I don't set one. 3 to 5 kilometers out as my general technique, I treat it as an RP and I slow down. So even going straight into a civilian airport or an airport formation or not, I say, hey, I'm 3 to 5 out. I'm either looking at my GPS or I'm eyeballing it, and I decelerate the aircraft. Begin that approach speed. I set that speed, let's say 50 knots, until I have my eyes onto the LZ, or I'm at a point where I want to start the approach. When I initiate the approach, I set a line from where I am to where I'm landing, and I follow that straight angle in. So the RP gets me slowed up to that point where I want to initiate my approach, and then I initiate the approach. I try to do a constant angle. Sometimes if I'm terrain flight or on top of the trees, I got to slow down prior. So I'm not descending, I'm just slowing. Then I get to my angle, then I begin my approach. But we'll show you guys that in a little bit. And then for us in the Huey world, 50, 60 knots RP inbound or slower. So you guys are cruising about 80 knots because of gunships. So hey, I'm at a cruise speed, formation's up. Hit my RP, I should be a tight formation, slow about 50 knots. I got eyes on my LZ. All right, begin a nice deceleration. No obstacles, so hey, straight in, nice shallow angle. All the aircraft touch on the same time. But that's what an RP and an SP do for you. They're just setting your formation, getting everybody together on takeoff, and then link together as flight, or getting everybody set up for landing. Any questions on start points and release points?
No questions, but would it be fair to say the most important one is the release point?
I think so. And that's mainly because I fly an aircraft that has a lot of power, and I tend to take off with my flight. If let's say we're at different parts of an LZ or an airport, or like we've landed and done an assault and we're all spread out, the SP can be important because we're going to take off and head to a certain speed and heading, and everybody's going to link up. So if I'm on a different part of the ramp and I take off and then another aircraft takes off a few hundred meters away, he's going to link up to me in flight. So that SP keeps us slow and pointing in a general direction so we can get the flight built. Generally, you like to take off as a flight, but yeah, Huck had mentioned 50 knots seems low. So ETL is an indicated speed of 16 to 24 knots. So you have a little bit more wiggle room on that. But in a Huey, it doesn't really matter. Some other aircraft, they get some autopilot issues at 50 knots. But 50 to 60, remember when you're flying terrain flight, you might only be doing 30 to 40 if you're NOE. So you might not decelerate at all. You're going to come down that river, break into that field, link up and land. So you're just setting a speed. You don't want to accidentally come screaming into an LZ, realize you're 3 kilometers out doing 90 knots, 120 knots, because then you're not going to make the landing. Yeah, slow and steady for large multi-ships. Remember, large multi-ships, you're not supposed to land into the heart of the enemy. In Air Assault World, we talk about 2.5 Ks out is kind of a... crap, I don't have the numbers on me. It's in my SOP. I don't feel like looking up right now. But we can talk about being out of small arms range, like 1K out. So the guys come in and they they rush into the tree line and then they form up, move to attack, or I'm going to land them multiple Ks out of audible range. Drop those guys up, they form up, they move out. The idea is for them to get organized, get in their formations, move, and go attack on their conditions. The infantry, we always taught we attack on our conditions. So if I land in the middle of the LZ, like in We Were Soldiers, and you're getting shot coming off the helicopter, that's not a great situation because we're not setting the conditions. We're reacting, trying to set a perimeter. So we call it the Hollywoodization of air assault, where we're always landing these hot LZs. Now, when you got guys in contact and that's all you got to do, then yeah, you're going to have to land these hot LZs. But even with large formations, you're still going to be generally slower because if you come screaming in, you're going to crash the helicopters. There's a lot of good Vietnam books. There's one on a Marine 46 unit. Guys would come in, try coming fast, and they were just balling aircraft up constantly. So it's a dance between enemy fire and me crashing the helicopter. Statistically, Vietnam, half the aircraft were lost to enemy fire. So that left the other half meant we just crashed them. So yeah, you might be a little faster, or you break up into smaller elements, come in two at a time. As a two ship or a single ship, you can get away with a lot of crap. But I warn you, when you get a hot, heavy Huey, like a gunship, when DCS allows for weight, you're going to appreciate that with the gunship guys, when they come screaming into an LZ with that kind of weight, makes it a difficult landing. You're going to run out of power and crash. So generally, yes, slow and steady. So especially when you're talking about 100, 200 aircraft. Even in our case, 5, 10 aircraft, slow and steady. Okay. Finally, this is just some of my flying techniques. It's kind of hard to mix the Mi-8, the Huey, Black Hawk, all that kind of stuff. So I'm trying to give you guys techniques that are applicable to all. And here's where we're going to talk about a little bit of differences between the aircraft. So on a takeoff, it's going to be slow, a slow lift initially. Just kind of getting everybody off the ground, nice constant angle. I tend to do a little steeper takeoff. That's a habit from a different aircraft. Huey, generally a constant angle, trying to get through ETL before you get out of ground effect, clearing all your obstacles. Once you're going to start off at a few hundred feet, and then as you climb out and accelerate, you're going to limit your takeoff to 500 foot per minute or less generally. Because whatever Chalk 1's pulling, Chalk Last has to pull a lot more. DCS, we don't have a lot of problem with downwash, but in the real world, the aircraft create downwash. They disturb the air. So you're trying to take off nice and slow so that the aircraft behind you everybody can stack above you just a few feet to get out of your dirty air. So it's important to lift slow, be slow and smooth, but then kind of get that faster than normal takeoff. I don't like the way the manual says that, but I take off nice and slow. Get myself moving on a constant angle, taking off, getting everybody so they have enough power to get stacked up above me, out of my dirty air, and we get out. Important things are setting a climb airspeed. So DCS, we tend to go to the treetop level and fly. If you guys were going up to 500, 600, 1,000, 2,000 feet, you would set a climb speed. Hey, we're going to maintain 60 knots till we hit the SP, or we hit our cruise altitude, then accelerate. So generally, I'm going to take off, get to my 60 knots, set that angle, set about 60 knots, 500 foot per minute, climb out. That's not a fixed rule. It's just something I tend to shoot for. 60 world, I tend to go to 80 knots for a 500 foot climb out. It just depends on my power available and what you can do in the Huey. I try to limit my pitches to no more than 5 degrees nose up or nose down. I don't want to take off and just nose her down. You look at those first air cavalry takeoffs where they take off and nose it way down. Your engine fails, you're going to just slam straight into the ground. And if you're doing it that aggressively, you're going to cause a slinky. Now the difference is, I got some videos of gunships taking off. They're going to take off, push the nose forward, probably 5 degrees, get her moving, and kind of take off sometimes one at a time, or they try to take off as a flight. But generally you see those guys kind of lift up one at a time, 2, 3, and 4. Gunships, a lot smaller formations. They get a couple up, and that's where they'll say, all right, hey, I'm saddled with you. The flight's formed, because they took off somewhat separately. If you guys go on the Gulf map, it's about 40 degrees. I tend to take off almost the same way. I do a real shallow angle, but we still take off as a flight. I nose her over a couple degrees, get her running into ground effect. So we do a shallow takeoff, but we take off together. But everything is smooth, steady, get through ETL and climb out. So it's all still trying to do constant angle, still trying to keep the flight together, let everybody stack. Gunships, they're just so ridiculously heavy that sometimes they take off one at a time. That's kind of some of the videos you've seen. That's takeoffs, really, and I'll try and demonstrate some good takeoffs. And then that's that whole, is the flight formed? If I take off as a flight, the last guy doesn't need to really say the flight's formed because you took off as a flight. Because you got loose on the takeoff and then came back together, that doesn't really matter. But if we take off from different parts of the airport, link up. If we take off individually, link up. That's when I usually get a flight's formed call. In cruise, a good flight lead, we generally set altitudes and airspeed. You guys fly terrain flight a lot, so it's not necessarily applicable. But if I say I'm going to fly at 500 foot, 90 knots, I'm going to fly at 500 foot, 90 knots. The exception to that is when I'm doing time on target. I might have to go a little faster, a little slower to maintain my times, but generally we're saying where we're briefed. I'm going to minimize power changes. So in DCS, I take my hand off the collective. I'm not saying the real world that's a good idea. I rest my hand on the dash, but I don't move the collective. I set my pitch to the power I need, and I don't touch it again. When we hit thermals and stuff like that, and the aircraft goes up and down, I use the cyclic, and we just kind of ride the wave together. The whole formation pops up, sinks down. Try to minimize collective inputs. Unless I have to make climbs really greater than 100 feet, whatnot, then I might pull in some power to get that climb in. But generally, I try not to touch that collective. That way it makes it easier for the guys behind me. If I'm in there milking the collective a lot, the guys behind me they're moving the collective exponentially more, and they're burning more fuel. Formation turns. For a large formation, we try not to do greater than 60 degrees. If we have to, then that's briefed and noted in the briefing, like, hey, this is a 90-degree turn. I'm going to lead it early, that kind of thing. Try to limit our turns, and we try to limit our bank angle. Basically pretending like I'm pulling a train. So I'm not going to roll her over into a 45-degree bank. I'm going to round all my turns, fly over my point, round all my turns, correct back on course. Just nice, smooth, gentle flying. And if I limit my bank angle, I don't have to mess with my power as much or at all. So I might lose a couple knots. I might pull a little aft cyclic on my turns if I'm real shallow. And that way I don't mess with my power, and that way the other guys in the formation don't have to mess with their power. But that's cruise. Cruise is just about navigating to where you're supposed to be and then setting that up. Try not to screw with your collective. Landing. I had an instructor that said you could never land too slow. Especially if that approach is steep. I like steep approach landings. Yeah.
Could you say a number? What is the bank normal limit with leading a long flight?
As 30 degrees or less. At night we try to restrict ourselves to 30 degrees because in the night vision you can get disoriented. I don't really have a great bank angle. We can look at it today and see when you guys are flying, kind of limit yourselves. But generally I'm looking outside and I can tell what a shallow, smooth bank is. Speed makes a difference in your bank angle as well. But I mean 15 degrees maybe. 15 degrees requires very little power change, so we'll look at today. We'll try and pull some turns and see what kind of banks we're getting, and we can demonstrate a 45, a 30, or 15, something like that. But 15 is probably good, but don't limit yourself. If you got to turn the aircraft to move the formation, then you got to do it. Landings, it's the big one. It's getting yourself established early, getting yourself slowed down early. When I touch down, I generally don't have to flare at the bottom because I've set that 5 degrees nose up, and I ride that all the way into my landing, and I do slight adjustments. But generally at the bottom, I'm not pulling my nose up to slow down. I've set a nice constant deceleration. I'm try to get it where I'm through ETL and ground effect. If the approach is shallow enough, allows me to do that, and I just kind of come in and then I set. And the aircraft sets right down. So if I'm come to the bottom and I have to pull back cyclic and power to flare, then I've done too fast of an approach. This is not just for formation. when you're doing high altitude landings, you try to never pull more than what you had to hover at. So if I do a good approach, I actually get to the point where I'm pulling in power, and then right where I get to my hover height and the point where I'm like my 10-foot hover height and that power, I'm actually have to push the collective back down. If I have to keep coming in and keep pulling power in the whole time, that means I came in fast. You guys probably know what I'm talking about, where you came in quick and you had to pull power in the bottom and flare. That's what we're trying to avoid. So ideally, you come in so smooth that you're pulling in power, getting to that point where you're almost hovering, and then you're actually having to lower the collective. One of the things I hate the most is when the aircraft hits ground effect or hits that cushion right where it likes to hover, she'll fly along the ground. And if you have too much speed, she'll move for quite a while. So the whole formation follows this nice angle down, and then all of a sudden you're running along the ground. So you want to avoid that. You want to set my angle early and set it constant, which is really hard to do. And that way everybody says, all right, I know where that guy in front of me is landing. I can tell by his angle. Then as we get close to the ground, I stop looking at him. I'm looking at my spot, and we land. If I look up and all of a sudden he's hover taxied across the ground 30 feet, that kind of sucks. But so constant angle, which is really hard to achieve. It's a challenging thing. There's a lot of techniques to it, but setting angles, being predictable where I'm going to land, nice, slow, and smooth. And then every aircraft, we touch down at the same time. The troops are out. Get our up calls. We go. Don't want to flare too much. Constant angle approaches are great. If we're doing one into a confined area, my MI8 guide, I have some pictures, but we come along the top of the trees. Some common tendencies. Chalk 1 clears the trees and says, all right, I got my LZ, and he starts his descent. You want to avoid that. You want to keep the deceleration going as I clear the tree, clear the field, and then when the whole flight clears,
that's a negative.
then I set my descent rate, a nice steep descent rate into my target. I might have to be a steep descent rate. The point of that is I want to make sure every aircraft has cleared all the obstacles and then begin to my descent. That way it doesn't look like the formation just slinkied into the LZ. I'll try to demo one of those. I'll try to demo us landing to an airfield and then us landing into an LZ. And then for this game, we might have. Oh shit! Sorry, I clicked on something. We might have to work on a call saying last aircraft's cleared. In the real world, I'm coming over. My crew chief's heads out the window and he says, Chalk 5's clear, and then I begin my approach down. We don't have nice crew chiefs, so we have to set that. Might have to say, hey, last Chalk's clear the tree or something like that. So we'll try to do 2 landings. That's my flying techniques, some navigational techniques, and rolls. You guys got any questions on any of that?
I was just gonna ask if you decelerating through 40, no matter how hard you set your angle.
You might have to. If your LZ is not a large one, and I got to fit 4 aircraft into a small LZ, yeah, I might have to be up there decelerating, and then coming almost straight down or very steep.
That wasn't a question. My question goes back to the previous, what you said about the long approach, constant speed, or constant angle. But if you start your approach with 60, coming down or decelerating through 40, you will necessary to give some collective, then the nose goes up and the nose goes left, and there you go, starting to, or at least start to wobble a bit.
Yeah, I think I'm understanding your question. So you're saying as I come in, decelerating from 60 knots.
When you come through 40, you will need to add collective. With pitches up your nose, you need to push it down, and you give some collective, you need to give in left pedal. So it's pretty difficult to really draw a straight line without messing it up.
Yes, it definitely is. That's called, and honestly, that'll happen at 59 knots, 58 knots, 50. That's going to happen consistently. So it's called inherent control coupling. Every time I move one control, every other control has to be moved. So if I go from 60 to 65 knots, I pull in a little bit of power. She's going to try and nose up. I need to nose down. I need to adjust my pedals. The key to that is to do things, 1, to be ahead of the aircraft and know that's going to happen, and 2, to do things very slow and smooth. So when I decelerate, I'm only pulling a few degrees nose up. I want to begin my deceleration kilometers out. If I lower that collective and pull my nose back, the aircraft's going to yaw if I jerk in power. So the key is to really do that slow and smooth, and to practice doing that slow and smooth. That way, eventually your brain will get ahead of you, or your body will get ahead of your brain, and you'll do those things automatically. You'll move those controls and compensate for that stuff. But if you do it slow and smooth enough, you can compensate, and it won't get too squirrely on you. So that's just something you got to practice single ship. And then everything we talked about today can be practiced single ship. And the other big one is DCS ETL is like 20 knots. I know real world 16 to 24. At 20 knots, when you drop out of ETL, it's very aggressive in this game. So as I approach that 20 knots, I'm pulling in power ahead of that so that it's a straight line. Because otherwise we hit that 20 knots and we sink. And then guys go into, for some reason, drop into, I guess, settling with power, and then they smash into the ground. So as I approach 20 knots on my constant angle, I'm actually pulling that power in a little bit early to compensate for my ETL. I'll try and demo that. The first takeoff we do in flying, I'm going to talk a lot through the first route, what I'm doing, what I'm saying, stuff like that. The second leg, I'm going to not talk very much. We'll just do our up calls. I'll try and give you guys an accurate route for me to follow, and we won't talk, and we'll do a landing. And then from there, we'll split off. Either split off or, yeah, we'll do something where you guys break off and then you guys practice. So I'll try and give you 2 good demonstrations. All right. Whenever, and that's all I got. What other questions you guys got? Oh, sorry, Huck. When you say,
while you're reading that, I'll just jump in here. One thing, Blade, that really allows you to practice this, and a lot of you guys get fed up when I ask you to do them, is circuits. Getting that on your final, getting your glide angle smooth and straight, and managing your speed and your descent rate, so you've got a great straight glide path down. That's what it's all about. So maybe some of the newer guys, when I ask for repeating circuits, that's what it's all about. It's instinctively controlling your collective and pitch to give you the result that you want.
And I was talking to MSL, Huck. So we tend to set an en route altitude of 500 or 1,000 foot, 90 knots, let's say. That's MSL. When I get into that terrain flight modes, then I'm maintaining an AGL altitude or below. And then I'm messing with the power a lot more, especially when I get into real slow NOE. Your NOE, if I'm flying down a river or trying to do radar masking, I'm very low. I'm going to be slow. If I'm a scout, they're snooping and pooping. They're moving up from field to field, breaking cover, moving up to a tree line. That's a slower NOE. Technically, it's 25 feet AHO, above highest obstacle or below. If I'm in insurgent land or I'm trying to get to a target quickly, I might be just above the trees, moving along at a good clip, 60, 80, 100 knots, skimming along the top of the trees. That's still considered NOE. 2 different ways of flying it, and different techniques to landing and doing stuff from that. But what I was talking about earlier was kind of AGL. I'm sorry, MSL. And then keeping that 0 on the VSI, it works very well in DCS. Because of thermals and all that, your VSI is all over the place. Can be all over the place. So I tend to fly the VSI a lot, but you have to really keep a look on your altimeter. Especially if you don't have an instantaneous VSI or something like that. Any other questions? I'm gonna jump into my VR. I'm gonna go to the runway.
What should we do?
Jump on the server.
Yeah, get on the server and get yourselves lined up on, if you have a predetermined, however Gizzy tells you guys to line up.
Okay. Is there anybody not flying?
Me. Paco's not flying.
Okay. We've got 12 Hueys. Obviously, that leaves 11. Okay, so this would be your order. And I might miss somebody out here. Huckleberry, Chook 2. Mole, Chook 3. Toro, Chook 4. Blade, Chook 5. Latio, Chook 6. DC Choke 7, Memphis Choke 8, Groundhog Choke 9, and Gabor, I'm not sure if you're an MI8, you're at the back end. Anyone missed out? Okay, there you go. So once you get on there... Sorry?
229 Caucasus server?
229 AHB EU.
Dropped the wrong aircraft.
Thank you.
What aircraft, Gizzy? Are you having them load in the number that's associated with the helicopter?
No, just jump in anyone, sir, and go you to the runway. They've just been told their chalk order, and they'll move out and form up behind you.
All right, we're paused.
Could I have a slot, Gizzy?
Which server are we in, Gizzy?
HBEU.
Thank you, Miles.
The server with the most participants.
Oh, and this one, I'm not going to use the SR for the first 2 legs, just because I'm doing a lot of talking and all that, and then you guys can transition to SR afterwards.
Gizzy from Gadget, did I have a shot?
Probably missed you out, mate. You slot in at the back.
Shall do.
You've got the worst one because I tell you now, there's going to be some Constantina effect.
Yep.
Okay, I'll not be flying. I'll be videoing it. So they're all hot starts. So get yourselves in. You know your chalk order. Slowly tax on out and sort yourself out.
I'm sorry, Gizzy. This is Gabor. Which chalk number was I?
I think I put you at the back. Are you flying a Huey or an MI8, sir?
Well,
whichever you want, but yeah.
What formation works best for your Huck? Stagger right or left? Okay.
Whatever aircraft you're comfortable with, Gabor, 8 or a Huey, whatever you're most comfortable with.
Sure.
I'll jump into Game Master. That should provide another aircraft. Okay, 6 and Huckleberry are on the runway. Mole's coming up, and Toro's on the move.
Go ahead.
Who's number 5? Who was assigned chalk 5? Please come.
Blade is.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I was transmitting on SR. It's Blade number 5 lifting now.
Okay, so who's chalk 6?
I'm chalk 6, but there's I'll take the number 8 aircraft.
Don't worry about that. Chalk 6, you leave now, sir.
I'm still loading, mate, on my Prime Evil machine.
Okay, DC, you are now chalk 6. Taxi behind Blade.
Roger.
Gadget, you go in as chalk 7.
Go on with the tail end, mate.
Yep, turn down and follow the others.
Okay.
Sorry, Gizzy, I missed that. Was that for me?
No, you're now chalk 8, sir. You're chalk 8. You see Gadget just going past in front of you. Follow him. Behind
Roger.
Chalk 8 was my position actually. Shall I move to 9?
I can't see you. Yes, you go to 9, Memphis. Sorry, I missed you on the big map.
What aircraft we got?
I'm waiting on the press.
I think we've got all 10 by the looks of it.
Okay. Cool.
8 lifting.
Just you slot you in you there, Memphis. The rest will slot themselves in. We can rearrange the chalk numbers. So don't get hung up about it. I see you sitting there. You go in as chalk 5. Blade will be 6. DC will be 7. Gadget will be 8.
Roger.
Saves a lot of nonsense. Ladio's on his way. He'll pop on at the end, and then Groundhog followed by Gabor.
Let's see again.
You're second from last, right?
Yes, I think I'm chalk 10 now.
Well, whatever way it all ends up, I've lost count, but just slot in as it all goes together.
This is going to get difficult, I can't add.
What's the matter, Gadget?
There's too many chalks on it.
Well, don't worry about the chalk number, just find a slot.
I've run out of fingers.
Okay, Gadget, your chalk gate. Slide yourself in.
Roger.
Three more to come, 6, then we're really sure.
Alright. It's gonna be kind of basically a giant turn, but we'll work on that.
Cut across the grass, Ladio, to the end of the... Mate, don't worry too much about the taxiways. Cut across the grass. Same with you, Groundhog and Gabor. Cut across the grass. Get yourself settled in position.
All those who are ready should turn off the beacon lights, right?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Once you're ready, turn them off. Okay, listen out for your formal chalk numbers. Huckleberries 2, Mulvich 3, Toro 4, Memphis 5, Blade 6, DC 7, Gadget 8, Alatio 9, Groundhog 10, and Gabor is 11.
Alright, all ready.
When you're all ready, switch off your beacon lights.
It's a lot of Hueys. It's awesome.
Yeah, it looks good.
So
This is the best it's gonna look.
Yeah. Some of you are gonna lose. It's formed up really well.
Chalk 9, if you're ready, switch off the beacon.
Real quick, we're gonna go to the F10 map. Let me know when you guys are there.
There?
Yep.
Alright. Sat view is probably the best. Wow, this route's terrible. So, we're taking off. You guys see where we are? And we're landing at that first point. I forgot what he labeled down. LV1. It's that airfield. I wanted to kind of demo a turn to you guys. So, we're going to take off. We're heading a long runway heading, and we're going to hit this river. That's our SP. So, I'm going to hopefully do a really good formation, smooth takeoff, and I'm going to go up to 200 feet, 60 knots. That should hopefully get everybody with me. I'm going to maintain that 200 feet, 60 knots until I hit that SP. So once you guys see the river, know I'm going to start to accelerate to 80 knots. Basically, we're just going to do a sweeping right turn. I put points in, though, so I wouldn't get disoriented. We're going to try and do a sweeping 180-degree turn. I hope our radius is big enough so it's nice and smooth. I'll try and demo a good turn rate, and we're gonna come across the river here, and then I made an RP, kind of a group of trees begin around the town, or in the middle of the towns that lines us up in the runway. The key is that that's where I will be landing. I'll be landing on a beam of that runway. So you guys know where Chalk 1's landing. So Chalk 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we should be spread all the way back. So I'm telling you now where I'm landing so you have a good idea of what to look for, and then hopefully I project a good angle. I'm going to make until I set the angle I want.
6 breaking up.
Okay, sorry, I keep clicking on things. So 200 foot the whole way until I maintain the angle I want. So RP will be, let's do 60 knots inbound, 50 knots inbound, but 200 foot the whole way. Yeah, that's my plan. Everybody good with that?
Sounds
You're
great.
gonna need to say again where we're landing. I missed that.
I'm landing at that airport north. But where I'm landing is a beam, the middle taxiway. So Chalk 1 is going to be left side of the center line, a beam in the middle taxiway. You guys,
You're talking about number 10, right? Point number 10.
Is it 10?
LZ1.
I see it as LZ1.
Is it Kviteri airfield?
Yeah, point 10. Point 10.
Yes, Kviteri, yeah.
So we're approaching from the west, landing right in there. All right. It's going to be kind of one. So we'll kind of see some bank angle. We'll see a comfortable bank angle if it's not too tight.
Again. Please
Sorry.
repeat this one.
We're good. There's nothing else to say. Sorry. Every time I click, it kicks off. You guys good? You got all the details.
3,
4, 5,
6,
7,
8,
9,
10.
All right.
Number
Torch.
9 was transmitting on both.
All right, hold on. All right, torch. All right, through ETL. Now I'm starting to pull out my power as I come through ETL, maintaining that rate. Approaching my altitude, so I'm going to maintain the power and just level off. So we're at 60 knots, 200 feet. This is what I'm going to maintain. Or try to. I got a little fast, so I'm just correcting.
Come on, guys, close up.
Alright, now I'm getting my airspeed a little more under control. So this RP inbounds is kind of where you guys kind of get all the situation. We're just maintaining it good. 200 feet, 60 knots. I'm going to tell my co-pilot to fly for a second. Formation's up, flying. Everybody's together. Looking good. Remember the river, I said I was going to accelerate and begin my right-hand turn.
Five and 6, can you work on your stack height, please?
Accelerating, right-hand turn. My altitude's off a little. The standard's 100 feet. So I'm using my cyclic to correct it. And then this is 10, 20 degrees. This is kind of a shallow turn. I feel like this was a decent turn that you guys are able to maintain, but you're behind me. Now I'm at my 80 knots. Now I'm going to correct my altitude. We could have gone steeper, but with a big formation, I think shallower is better. So the bigger it is, the gentler I try to be. Alright, guys are looking really good. We actually made that turn a lot better than I thought. So we're going to fly straight for a while, then probably do 2 more turns. And your guys' stack looks a little like it's kind of different and all that kind of stuff. The real world, we get thermals, so the whole formation, if you ever can find some old videos, you'll see the formations kind of up and down in waves and stuff. As we cross this field, we'd hit a thermal up. We hit this wooded area, that's less thermal. Urban areas produce heat. So the flight kind of rises and falls, and we try and stay within that ATM standard of 100 feet. And we might use cyclic to adjust. If we have to, we can use power, but yeah. So I guess it covers our mistakes a little in the real world. But everything's looking really good. Alright. I use my Copilot a lot. The key with that is to use my control indicator and make sure I put the controls exactly back where he has it so I don't jerk all over the place. And I just constantly scanning my instruments. Well, really looking outside, making sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So those are pretty shallow turns. There's no hard rules, but with a large formation, I'm trying to be shallow. If it's just Huck and me, I could be a little more aggressive. But I would say no more than 30 is definitely a good rule. With this many guys, 10, 20 is probably pretty solid. Alright, right on course for our final ACP. So what's going to get us on the landing is on the slowness. As we get slow, you got to feel that aircraft, or at 20 knots, sneak in the power a little early, and that'll keep that drop out. It's a little aggressive, that fall through ETL. So just be ready for it. If you always practice slow, smooth approaches, you'll be able to kind of catch that ETL. If you come in and always aggressively decel, you'll drop through 30, 20, 10 knots really quick, and so that drop's really fast and hard to predict. Let's see, probably could have done a little bit of route recon, 96 meters. So in this case, I'm going to bring us up to 350 feet. So I'm just going to use a little bit of cyclic work, no power. I'm going to sacrifice just a few knots of airspeed, get us to climb up out of the trees. %, below my desired altitude, I level off. Just ignore that. That takes more explanation. Sorry. And then she'll naturally accelerate back to where she needs to be. Coming up on the river, I was looking for a bridge on the river. Should be out the left door. Bridge is out the left door. Puts my RP. This is the final HCP on the river. We're doing a slight turn to the RP. Correcting altitude. So the RP is that group of trees in front of us. RPs, you gotta be careful with your point selections. Like I did a group of trees. DCS not a big deal. Man-made objects are dangerous because they get blown up. And then even trees and stuff like that, if I'm using old maps or anything like that, that stuff might not be accurate. So you want solid references. If you can correlate a man-made with a natural object, that's always helpful. Rivers, bridges, or river road intersections, that kind of stuff. Alright, so the RP is just ahead, so I'm going to begin to lower my power out now. So I just dropped maybe 2 psi torque, and I'm just holding her level. And we're going to slow down to, what did I say, 50 knots? RP is going to get us within 30 degrees. This one's probably about 10 degrees off, so we'll correct that inbound. Still slowing down, coming through 60. RP's in the middle here, and I want to be at 50. $50 is a hard number in the Huey because it's not marked. Alright, there's our 50. Now I'm turning us towards the objective. I'm going to maintain this speed and altitude until I get an angle to my landing point that I'm happy with. And then I'm turning us to the right a little bit, and then I have to turn us back left to line us up. That's what happens with an offset RP.
3, can you push up?
So remember, on this landing, we're going to watch out for that sink at 20 knots. It's going to be slow. We're going to be, once we're below, excuse me, in ground effect, we're going to essentially kind of be hovering her down to a landing.
Sorry, guys.
4, come right. You've joined the left-hand side.
Yeah, keep comms clear. Keep the comms clear.
I've climbed a little bit on altitude, so I'm going to get rid of it. Sorry about that. And then I'm slowed a little, which is alright, because I'm setting up. I think this is a good angle, so I'm going to ride this angle in. I'm landing to that that middle taxiway. It'll be a shallower angle, which is kind of hard to do in a long formation. We tend to drag it, but heavy underpowered Hueys, this is probably a good angle. Getting a little slow, so I'm just going to hold the speed. I'm just above ETL, so I'm going to hold the speed.
Bollocks. Mole VRS.
Now I have too much speed. Sorry about that. Still trying not to pull more than 5i. It's going to have a slight slide at the bottom because I held the speed. Ah, damn it. We're going to touch down with just a knot or two. Bummer. And then the problem with the large formation, you guys came in faster than I did. That whole sling effect, that's why being slow is kind of key. I held probably 5 knots at the bottom, so I slid. How far did I slide, Gizzy?
You hardly slid at all. I was watching you, maybe about 2 feet.
Oh, okay, 2 feet. So that'd be a good combat landing, I guess. I kind of held it. But that VRS, that's a tricky, kind of a tricky bitch. It's hard to get in-ground effect and be above ETL on a large formation landing. So that's that. Let me just pick one more LZ. I want to demo a low level, clearing the trees, landing into a field. And I think I have a spot right off the nose, about 5 kilometers.
Okay, 6. You remain stationary. The rest of you sort yourselves out in natural chalk order.
Roger.
Get yourself set up properly.
Okay, Mole's returning with a clean ship.
Alright, we'll be here.
Very good.
Can I land? Yeah, maybe. Maybe I'll look. Let me clean up my mess on the map.
Blade, move across.
Should I take number 5 position?
You take number 5. Gadget, you come up to 6. DC, you stay in 7.
I like that green field. I wonder how I can get us into it.
Groundhog, you come up in front of Latio on your left.
Yeah,
I'm not sure where Latio is.
He is at your on your left, 45 degrees in front. Come forward and take up chalk 8.
Copy.
We're going to go straight for LZ3. We're going to approach from the south. It's going to be, I'm going to show you guys a little more aggressive. I'm going to set the RP. We're going to have to be a little more aggressive on the turns, but we'll see. That's going to be our RP.
Okay, good boy. Move off to your right. Mole will take the last ship on the left.
We're heading now 90.
Okay, your chalk order. Huck is 2, Memphis 3, Toro 4, Blade 5, Gadget 6, DC 7, Groundhog 8, Latio 9, Gabor 10, Mole 11.
Alright, Mole. Your big job is going to tell me that the flight is of the LZ that you're. So this one's going to be another difficult one. We're going to be basically hovering at 100 feet while the whole flight clears this LZ. So we're going to come along, skim the treetops, hold our altitude, hold it, almost come to a real slow hover, and then the last flight's in, and then we all land. If you look at the F10, we're landing to the LZ to the east. So I'm going to take off or make a pretty sharp turn. Then my 30 degrees to the SP. So we're going to take off, kind of get to the end of runway, turn. Then I'm going to turn due south. I'm going to hit the river, turn, and head up the right side of the river. I'll put a point down. Hold on. That's a general route. Please don't judge my route planning. My nonsense here. But we're going to go down and do a U-turn, land at the north. Let's go with the same 50 and 80 airspeeds. And the big thing's going to be coming in over that village. We're going to come in right at rooftop level, treetop level, clear the LZ. We're going to hold it high up there. And then Mole's going to say, hey, the flight's over the LZ. If that gets me within the field, great. If it doesn't. It's going to be, it could be very vertical. I feel it's 400 meters. We might have to take some more. 400 meters. I think we can fit 400 meters. So it's going to be kind of a... Sorry, we're going to come down slow. We're actually only 250 meters right now. So it'll be almost feel like it's straight down, but we just come down slow. And we'll just see how it works out. But I'm demonstrating kind of a terrain flight. It's not really the Huey's forte, but Vietnam they would do it. Sometimes one aircraft at a time. They'd drop a bomb in the jungle, blow a small hole, and the flight would come in, they'd break off one aircraft at a time, steep, land, drop, climb out, and then rotate in. We're going to try and do it as a flight. Mole's almost here. This time, a lot less talking. You guys could have saw what I was trying to do last time. Yeah. And there's when you guys will pretend like this is a big multi-squad mission where you gotta get a lot of guys talking on the radio. So we'll just limit what I'm talking about. Or limit what I'm saying.
Beacon.
Torch. And we're going to demo this one kind of somewhat train flight-ish. Well, train flight. So it'll be a little lower. I can't be too low because I didn't really plan the route very well, so I have to navigate. So that was an 80-degree turn. That was a little aggressive. You guys probably noticed that on the turn. Or pick up our speed.
Lag.
Oh, there was lag.
Lag.
Oh, that was.
Oh, I blew up. Oh, the server stopped. Oh, came back.
Oh, you have nobody left. Everyone's dead.
I see a bunch of people flying.
I'm
They lost
behind
a lot.
Blade here.
Alright, somebody just had 180.
Yeah, I went down.
You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 ships.
Alright, everybody
Yeah, beacon on. Heading 180.
he's in the lead, so form up on... Oh wait, how did somebody get way out there? Alright, Blade. Slow to 60 knots.
Heading 180.
Everybody see Blade turn left now and catch up with Blade.
I'm heading 150 now.
So Blade's
Towards the
you doing 60
towards
knots?
the west edge. Yeah, I'm doing 60 knots towards the edge of the lake.
Alright, let's hold what you got. See if we make something out of this.
Mole's catching up at the back.
Groundhog is moving to position 5.
Alright, I see one guy off the right of the formation.
Yeah, to catch it down low. Coming up.
There you go. You bring yourself in. Formation 07. Alright. Now start slowing down, everybody, because you're going to all of a sudden be up on his ass. Oh, nice gentle slowdowns. Sorry. Mid-air reforms are a, yeah. Alright, you guys are kind of getting a formation. So I'm looking at 2 set. Number 3, you just got to push forward. And 4, 5, yeah. Out. Who's that? Leto. Sorry, you're now number 3. So push forward and left.
Roger.
And then... Sorry, that was DC's number 3. Leto, just
DC's
slide right. I was F2 and the wrong guy, my bad. Alright, everybody else make the formation up. Alright, let's tighten up with Blade. We got 2 more in the back, they're forming up. Blade, just give me a left-hand turn.
Coming left.
Everybody else that wants to keep flying, go ahead and head to LZ3. Go ahead and just left turn and put the far bank out your left door, heading kind of northish. Those nice shallow turns, looking good. Alright, now what are your bank angles at? Roll out there, sorry about that. It's the far roll out.
Ooh,
Blade
another warp.
Another warp. Ah,
Blade's still there.
Chalk 5, you're now under Chalk 4. Alright, come to the right, Blade.
Coming right.
Come right about 20 degrees. Nice and slow, like 10, 20 degree bank angles, 10 degrees, probably nice. What I want you to do here is just nose the cyclic over, but only about 100, 200 feet per minute. So just drop the nose a few degrees. Don't touch the power. Just drop that nose down and just drop the flight down. Number 2, start pushing up a hair.
Check.
Another rocky, okay.
You want to keep 60 still?
Yep. No, you can accelerate a little past 60. Just nose her down a few degrees. So you're only going to accelerate maybe 5 knots, 10 knots, but we're going to descend down to the trees. I'm going to try and figure out where the heck the LZ went. Got it. Alright. I want you to make the map. Go ahead. A new heading. 010.
010 coming left.
010. Alright, roll out there actually. Alright, keep coming down to the trees. You're at 60 knots, so we're not going to worry about an RP. You're going to cross this field and your LZ is it's up here on the far side of this field. You can come right 10 more degrees.
Coming right.
Perfect. I'm going to line you up, and then I'm going to turn you back left. Alright, buddy. Keep tightening up. This is pretty much would be your RP inbound here. You're going to skim along those trees. Off your 12 o'clock, you see a building. Maybe you're a little low. You're probably a little low. There's a large building. You're going to land in a field just to the left of it. It's a long, narrow field, so you guys are going to have to be tight.
About 10 degrees left from the big building. That's what you mean?
You're actually heading right at it. If that building had a parking lot out front, that's where you're landing. So
Okay.
you're looking good. Tower, you see a tower. You want to be to the right of the tower, and looking good. So as you hit this tree line, you want to be on the treetop level, and then you're going to start to slow her down. What are you at now? About 60?
Exactly.
All right. As we approach these trees, you're just going to rise, bring the nose up just a degree or two. And get her slowing down, and then come down to the treetop level.
That's a negative. User in your channel is already recording. Over.
Alright, formation's good. Nice and easy, guys. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Easy. Come left now.
Is that the field ahead of me?
It's a little bit ahead of you. Just keep flying along on this heading. Yeah, you're looking alright. Come a couple degrees more to the left. More left. There you
Tower
go.
ahead?
Yep. Alright, roll out. Alright. Now start
Damn.
start slowing down. This is your field.
Where?
Just keep slowing down. Right there right off the nose. See the big building? Big field.
Pink building to the right, mate.
Slow her down. Nice and easy. You're a little high, but hold the altitude. Now come left a little bit. Slide left just a hair. Give Chalk 2 some room. Keep decelling, but don't descend anymore. Everybody else tighten up. Keep decelling. You're gonna have to bring her to a hover.
User left your channel. Over.
Alright, keep decelling. You're pretty fast. Hold your altitude. Alright, now start to bring her down. Still got a lot of speed. Yeah, you kept about 20 knots. Keep bringing her down. Yeah, that's good. Actually, that was real good. You see, you kind of had to woe boy her. But that's what it takes to fit you guys in the formation you're in. It's unnatural because you're basically coming to a stop at the top of the trees. You guys are at a weird echelon, your 3 flight. Coming in. Whoever's chalk 3 on the second wave, you gotta slide left.
It's Memphis.
Okay.
It's on purpose to avoid crashes for another black.
Yeah, fair enough. You're not gonna fit in the LZ though. Alright, Giz, what do you want to do from here?
I'll split them into 2. Put those who normally have to get up early in the morning out in flight lead, the likes of Groundhog and Blade, and run to 2 6s if everyone's flying. And you can critique both, or you can take one and I can take the other, your choice.
We can each take one. We'll split our forces here.
Okay,
right, Huck, start slowing down even more. Slow her down. You want to crawl in this LZ. Watch your descent. No more descending because chalk 3 is about a little bit behind you. So hold what you got. Hold that altitude. Hold it, hold it, hold it. Keep decelling. Hold. You're dropping. Hold your power. Keep decelling. Hold your power. Keep holding. Keep holding. Alright, chalk 3 is clear. Descend. You guys are spread out a little, but that would be like what it was like leading like a 6-ship in Huck. So you just had to hold until that last one was clear, and then you're taxiing up. That's you guys are kind of getting the concept of the confined area. The big one is the formation's got to be tight, otherwise you guys won't fit, or you'll do some weird slinky shit getting in there. And then Gizzy, however you want to split them up, we can pull them to a different channel or go SR.
Okay, no, I've got a different channel. Who is not continuing flying other than Paco? Okay, I just drag you into 2 sets of channels. Just stand by.
I'll be right back, gentlemen. You want to pick your 2 flight leads real quick?
Yep, one's going to be Groundhog, and he'll be with you, and Blade will be with me.
Alright, Groundhog, start. Just decide where you want to go. It doesn't have to be a known LV, it can be a whatever you want to do. I'll be back in a few minutes.
Okay, that's 5 apiece. Groundhog, you're the flight lead. Huckleberry, Huck, you okay with 2 still, mate? Okay, you go 2. And Gadget 3, Toro 4. Who am I missing? Groundhog's lead, Huck is 2. Then we've got Disha, sort yourselves out, you're all very much the same there. Pick yourself out. Toro, you pick one on the right of the stagger. Don't go to the left of the stagger because you're a twisty, so you can go right if you have to if it gets tight. You with me?
Roger.
Okay, so you go chalks 2 or 4, and let the others take 1, 3, and 5. Okay, I'm dropping down.
User left your channel. Over.
Gadget lifting.
Toro lifting.
Okay, I'm on that as well.
All right, Groundhog, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. Find you on the map.
I'm at the.
Okay. Groundhog, cool. Whenever you're ready, you got routes and talked it out with everybody. Go ahead.
Well, I'm not sure about the tasking.
Sorry. Yesterday I said you could go just pick an LZ that you want to go to. You don't have to go far. Name of the game is practicing takeoffs and landings. You guys can head up to LZ2. Kind of a field up there with some trucks. A simple valley makes navigating easily, Jesus. And then some rivers that help kind of give you good points, release points and stuff.
Okay, but they're not on the map, the release point, so I have to figure out myself.
You just kind of pick one.
Let me see.
We try to do it between 3 and 8.
That's a negative. User,
but if you're limited on distance or kind of compensate for it, you could go a shorter one.
6, we're doing the 2 ones down to the island, and then the one to the east of that to begin with.
2-1. All right, Roger. We're heading up north.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to LC2 in that case.
Okay.
I'm not sure about the landing. You said in the previous, you did the 180 or not?
So there's no wind, so you can land to the north on this one.
Okay.
Just head straight in. And then a release point, you could use that town. You could even use the river and a bridge intersection down here.
Yeah, I think it would be good if we use that bridge over the river in north of Rayoni.
North of Rayoni. Just before the LZ?
Yeah, I mark it on the map.
Yeah, cool. Well, that gives you a nice, you got we call it a handlebar. You gotta keep the river out the left door, keeps you pointing straight. You might have to make a little turn into it, but oh yeah. So you're just gonna take off. Nice, good takeoff.
Okay, so we also need a starting point for the turn to the northwest, right?
Yep, and there's a nice, and the starting point doesn't have to be, there's a nice river. How far out is that? It's about 5 Ks. Or you could shrink it in, make it this town. Anything you want. But you're a lot smaller flight, so you can bring the start point in a little bit.
Yeah, but we were heading off to the north, so I'm not quite sure about when to turn northwest.
When you get above ETL, the flight's above ETL, you can do a nice round turn. So if my start point's off by 30 degrees, so be it. I just get up to ETL like I did before. Our start turn didn't line up on this last airport. Okay. Ideally, it's right off direction of takeoff, but in this case, it might not be. So you just get your flight up, take it off above ETL, and make your turn.
Okay, so we can really start, and then we follow the road until the river to have this as starting point.
Yeah, give it a shot. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, then you know, try something else. That might be a little steep. How about?
Well, let's try.
Yeah. 4-ship, you can get away with a lot. I would probably put the hill out your left door. The one off your nose, maybe. Make it that intersection right there, and that drop you into that valley. But give it a
go. Wait, so you're saying I should take your point as starting point, right?
If you want to. The nice thing about that is it's that big green hill off your 12 o'clock or your 11 o'clock. You basically keep that out the left door and run right into a corner of the town.
Okay, and that at the starting point you turn toward the river. Toward the... Yep. Okay.
Towards your next ACP. Should be an on-course heading of 338.
Beacon.
Torch.
Yeah. Good. Nice and slow. Nice easy. Gets Chalk 5 and 6 haven't quite gotten the ground. Try and do a little less on the nose down, kind of up, and get just to get everybody broken to the ground and pulling power. But your speed looks good. Formation looks, it's getting formed up.
Okay, so I'm accelerating to 80 and I'm heading 308.
Alright, it's going to be a kind of a, yep, you're going to have to go one valley over. So let's try something else, Huck. Just start to spread out just a little bit. Let's go to, you're at 3 disc. Yeah, there you go. So everybody's going to spread the formation out just a little, give us a little more maneuver room. There you go, that's looking good. Everybody else kind of spread out to match. So we've opened that formation up. I think you're at 1, 2, 3 discs, so you could go wider if you want, but now we're a little more spread out, a little more gun coverage, and when his aircraft explodes from AAA fire, hopefully Huck doesn't die too. What are you at? 1? That's about a 3 disc formation. That'd be minimum. It looks really good. Yeah, that looks really good. So you guys hit the start point, you spread out nicely. That way anything happens or you got a little bit of maneuvering room. Enemy fire comes in. Flying spread out I find is harder because now you're trying to maintain this. It's a little more challenging. And when he turns, you'll have a tendency to suck into the formation because it's hard for you to catch those turns. But tactically, you guys just got to learn what a 5 disc, a 3 disc, and a 2 disc, 1 disc looks like. Looking good. And then now Huck knows that your turn is coming up here, so he's anticipating you making the turn and getting ready for the power change and all that.
Following the river.
So just kind of lazy this turn out, looking good. All right.
Slightly descending.
Huh?
Okay, yeah, I thought we should fly at 200 feet. This is wrong.
Yep, no, you're good. You can do whatever you want, man. I mean, yeah, you guys want to fly at 200 feet AGL above the ground? I will tell you, you're about a K out from your release point. So that's where you would start.
Slowing down to 8.
You're 1.7 out, sorry. But you're coming up on the release point, so as you start to slow for the release, that's when Huck then just takes advantage and sucks the formation slowly back up. So he takes advantage of your decel and he's going to pull you guys in for landing. Now this is where we're vulnerable.
Slowing down now.
Yep, nice and easy. So you're just pulling a few degrees nose up, pulling out 1 or 2 PSI, and just kind of letting her slow her down. And then Huck takes that advantage and sucks it up just like he did. So landing, that's vulnerable. We're slow, we're in a tight formation. That's just the nature of it. Your LZ is along the river, not on the hill, so you can start turning.
It's on the right side of the river?
Yep. It's on the left side of the river, but the river does a hard turn in front of you.
Okay, I don't have visual on the LC yet.
That's alright. You can follow the river. Just be careful. I would come right a little bit. I'll talk you onto it. Like a good guy on the map would. So right.
Visual on smoke.
There you go. Now let me help you out here. So
accelerating to 50 again.
I would land to the right of the green smoke and a landing direction of about a 340. So that means you're going to have to start cheating right a little bit so that when you approach it at a 340.
Okay, so moving to the right so that we can, okay.
Then turn back left. That gives you the long axis. And then watch your speeds and all that stuff. Some nice easy turns. Formation's good, decent spacing. And then you can start cheating back left. And I would land, basically overfly these round buildings here, put the smoke right out your left. You're going to land just beyond it. But it's going to be out your left. Alright. And then this is hold your altitude because your flight's behind you. And then start decelling because you're coming in hot. So hold that altitude.
Too slow.
You're alright. No, your speed's fine. You gotta keep... Aircraft can hover, but hold their altitude. Oh, you descended. Remember your flight's above those trees behind you.
Okay.
There's a slight collision. Alright, well, there you go. Then just crawl it in. Keep coming down. Now you're committed. One's touching down, two's touching down, three's touching down. So your issue was you descended, and the formation was above the trees still. So when you descended, they tried to maintain height, and they slid into each other.
Okay, yeah, I just landed too early.
And it's hard. It's hard to know that. Takes a lot of practice. Or we could have just used the whole field. That was my fault, but and then getting consistency is hard. Trying to get the descent to happen regularly.
Okay.
Looks good. Now the three of you stayed together pretty good. I don't know. You have to ask how they thought the turns were and all that kind of stuff. Huck. We got Huck and Gadget. You guys able to kind of maintain the turns and follow them in? So smooth. You know, that's the name of the game.
Sorry.
Let's get whoever. What's up, Gadget?
My mic was muted. I was screwing up a bit in position 3, but other than that, it was good.
I thought the formation was doing pretty good. Somebody else want to take a lead and fly back down south because you got to meet up with those other two. But I think you guys get the what I'm trying to say. I tried to demo it earlier. I'm not practicing a Huey, but slow, smooth approaches, and then or just smooth.
Question.
Yeah.
You corrected it. Did you mean my start was too steep? Or did you talk to the chalk?
Accelerated kind of quick. Climbed out a little quick. Not all everybody got off the ground at the same time, but that might not have been you.
Okay.
To be honest, would try and get. I don't know. It might have been might have been fine. A lot of aircraft lifting at once, to be honest.
Okay, I've got to go. Thanks, guys. Thanks,
Six.
See you.
Cheers.
So I would just switch roles and keep at it. Practice being smooth, and then remember you guys can do this without having multi-ship. Just practice being smooth. Feel like you're coming in on good angles, not abruptly decelling, all that kind of stuff. But I gotta run. You could link back up with the rest of your flight. Alright, you guys got any more questions?
All good, mate.
Negative.
Then we're flying a lot of multi-ship at night. It's hard to catch up with the Europeans, but you know, and I'm gonna try and post some different videos and pictures on the Discord.
I noticed when heading for the release point, I almost forgot to decelerate before the release point.
Yeah. And ideally, the release point lines you up with the target. You would have had a little more straight towards the LZ.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you guys get it. It's just practice, practice, practice. Practice coming in slow, catching that ETL. That's the big one. Like, it just drops you out of the sky. The Mi-8, this stuff really, you'll feel a lot more because we're doing closer to 110, 120 knots. So that release point really slowing down, that's a big deal. You guys are flying at 80 knots, slowing to 50. So you can cut your release points a little closer. You can be closer to 3Ks out probably because you guys are moving slower. But when you guys move back to that MI8 and you're coming in, you're going to need a couple Ks to get that aircraft slowed down. You're coming out of a lot faster speed, a lot of weight. And the Huey, when you get weight on it, finally, when we ever get troop weight, same thing. You get her kind of slow to become a little more unwieldy. But, alright, I'm going to go talk to Gizzy, but I thought the formations were looking good. That massive one at the beginning looked awesome. I was really impressed by that. And yeah, so just keep at it, keep flying with each other, and then critique each other. AARs aren't always fun. It's not meant to be mean. It's just a nice way of saying, hey, I think that might have been a little too fast. Try slower or slower. Don't ever take it. Try not to take it personal. It's hard not to, but nice comments, and then talk each other through. Hey, I think that was too fast for me, or that was too slow for me, and then you guys kind of figure out what works for you. Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Six.
User left your channel. Over.
What are you thinking of the RP? Maglaki?
I'm in route.
Am I Chalk 3 now, or...?
Yeah, Toro's almost at Kavitri.
Okay, I'm moving to position 3.
Toro, if you maintain your track, you should see us get airborne.
Right.
I'll come back towards you.
SP. Yeah, Quill Story, I have it visual.
Yep. Toro's almost at Kavitri now, so by the time we get to ACP, he should be tagged on.
So we will land at LC1, or what's the final destination? Okay.
Two's beacon.
Oh yeah, I can see the release point. Beacon?
Anyone get any lag then? So, whereabouts you at, Tara?
I'm coming up over hill. Should have visual on you guys just shortly.
Roger, we've crested the hill. We're over the thick forest. Tracking 250. Huck's got beacon on.
Roger.
Look for the big hole in the trees, mate, just above it.
Negative. Somebody pop a flare. Visual. Sorry, his head's down.
Should we tighten the formation a bit? I think this is more than 3 rotor discs.
Yeah, sorry mate. Keep on going, heads down. Try and double check shit. Don't want to run into anyone.
Sorry, guys. I've got some company. I've got to leave. I hate to, but I have to. Enjoy it. Had fun.
Okay.
Cheers, man.
Cheers. It's looking good. Shouldn't we already have decelerated to 50 knots?
Roger.
Copy. Well, that looked pretty good. Yeah, I would also say and X. Will we move to the other channel?
You might as well.
User left your channel. Over.